Howdy. Hello. How are you? Annyeonghaseyo, all sorts of different greetings. I see I now have 66 subscribers. I believe last night I said, I say last night, I recorded last night, now I'm recording tonight to continue rebuilding my Whisky Basics playlist, and this is number 26, so once this is up, I'll just have 10 more, and I'll be glad I can go back to recording whenever the notion takes me rather than pushing to put things back together. But I have 66 subscribers. Now, that's just a drop in the bucket to most channels. But for me, it's the most there's ever been. And I'll be honest, I have to wonder sometimes whether some of these people aren't just subscribing so that I can keep saying, I have this many, I have that many, and they can laugh and say, hee, I'm not even watching. Who knows? I could be paranoid. You know, just because I hate that construction. Let me put it this way. The fact that I'm paranoid means I have enemies. They're coming to take me away to the funny farm. I think I quoted that song the other night, and I still don't remember who it was, Napoleon VI or something like that. You can look it up right here in downtown Burbank on YouTube, or downtown wherever you're at, or even uptown or no town or what have you. But I am here. This is, and I pointed this out on a previous video. I can't remember if it was Sipping and Talking or Whisky Basics or what, but this is the loosest cork I have ever had on any whiskey. Shouldn't be that easy, but it is, and I've tried moistening it up, and it's so loose that I get a leak, and it doesn't help it none, so it's almost gone, and it hasn't hurt the whiskey none. This is Rebel 100, the 100 referring to the proof. It's a wheated bourbon, meaning that of the 3 grains, you have at least 51% corn. Then there's a little sprouted barley for enzymes to help the fermentation. And then the what they call the flavor grain is not rye, which is typical, but wheat. It's corn, wheat, and barley instead of the usual corn, rye, and barley. Of course, you can make bourbon with anything as long as A, it's grain, and B, at least 51% of it is corn. You know, you could have 100% corn mash bill and make bourbon. You could have 51% corn and 49% wheat. You could have 60% corn and 40% oats. As long as you have the minimum percentage of corn and follow all the other rules of bourbon, it's bourbon. But since this is a Whisky Basics video, the format is a question which I answer. The question is, do I have a whiskey rating scale? Well, if you've got to this point, you have seen my whiskey rating scale. It's the, I can't remember, I think YouTube calls it the thumbnail. But it's that first thing, when before you start the video, it's what's showing there. Usually I have a bottle of whiskey, or I have a picture of a liquor store, something that I've taken. Well, this I took off of my computer screen. Hopefully it's readable. I just don't have the facilities to really. Now, I could hand carry the phone to the computer and do it, but it would be even more thoroughly amateur than it already is. Now, why does that question come to mind? And I'll get back to my scale here directly. Well, it comes to mind because various whiskey channels do have a specific scale they use to rate their whiskey. On Bourbon Real Talk, Randy Sullivan, when he's trying a whiskey, whether it's with his wife Lindsay or his friend Wes or whomever, he'll go two different ways. One is the buy or don't buy. Would you buy this whiskey? Well, either you would or you wouldn't. And then he has a 100-point scale. You know, where would you rate it? 2 out of 100, 99 out of 100, 50 out of 100, what have you. Then on Stuff and Whiskey, Josh and Aaron have a scale, and they have simplified it. When I first subscribed to the channel, they would rate various points about the whiskey, and it's either thumbs up, just okay, or thumbs down. Now they don't go through all the various details, and for me, that works better because they're describing the nose, they're describing the palate, they're describing the finish as they go, and they give the price. And so for me, it's sufficient to know that when they don't know what they're drinking, they don't know the price, it's one of the three. Once they learn the price, well, maybe what was a thumbs up isn't worth that price, so it becomes a just okay, or a just okay becomes a thumbs down. Then once they know what it is, they can look at it and say, oh, okay, and now I understand why it costs that much, or I don't believe it. Normally I like that, and I didn't this time. And that's a benefit, by the way, to tasting things blind. My system here is mine. I don't believe I've ever done a blind on this channel. It requires more setup than I have the patience or facilities or time for. Although I have done blinds, I'll take, because I have 4 Glencairns, so I'll put 4 different whiskeys each in a Boston bottle and set them aside and wait until I forgot which whiskey went into which bottle. Sometimes I even forget which whiskeys are involved. And then I'll pour them out into glasses that I've marked, and I'll try to guess the proof. I'll try to guess what it is, what have you. I almost always guess wrong. Usually, though, what I think I prefer is, in fact, what I prefer blind. So that is a useful check on my palate when I know what I'm drinking. A lot of times people will try something blind that they think they love, and blind, not knowing what it is, they don't like it as much, or they like it more than they thought they did. This stuff, by the way, $22.99. This is $23 right here. Rebel 100. And no, it's not the quality of a $70 whiskey, but it's certainly not bad. I'd be willing to pay, it's 23 now, I'd be willing to pay anywhere from 25 to 30 for it. Some people don't like wheated bourbons, that's all right. I've had mixed experience with them. Some mighty good, and this one's just good. It's not on a pinnacle, but it isn't bad at all. It's good bourbon. They say that when you fold your arms, you're getting defensive. I don't know what I would be defensive about. I just am comfortable this way right now. I sit, I stand, I walk how I'm comfortable. And you see these people on TV, newsreaders, they've trained themselves not to move their hands, and so they're talking like this and their heads are bobbing. It's natural, it's human to gesture, and when you don't let your hands do it, you will do it anyways. And even then, I look at the screen now and my head's moving anyways. But what about my scale? Well, it's a Hick scale. I've said it, and you can hear it listening to me. I am not no city boy. I live in a city. I have lived in other cities. I was born in a city, more is the pity. I wished I could say otherwise, but I wished I'd been born in a whole nother state from where I was born, but that's something you got no control over. I'm a Hick, though. All that aside, I'm a Hick. I talk like it. I dress like it because this is how I'm comfortable. I have the ideas and the convictions and the attitudes of a Hick. Doesn't mean I'm ignorant. I am not a physicist, but I could give a very, very basic explanation of quantum physics. Very, very basic. A layman's basic explanation. I'm not a historian, but I know a fair amount of history. I'm not a lawyer, but I've read the Constitution several times. And it's because I've read the Constitution, by the way, that I hold a great many of the political opinions I do. If the Constitution means what it says, then a lot of what both the Republican and the Democratic parties do and say is illegal. I'm not ignorant. I'm a Hick. I'm not an ignorant one. Although, as Will Rogers said, everybody's ignorant, just on different subjects. And I kindly think he was right. But I have a Hick scale. Now, I don't have it in front of me. I don't know. I guess I could have set the laptop over there or over there, and then I'd be going like that trying to see the screen. But it has 8 levels, from 1 at the bottom to 8 at the top. And without seeing it, I can't remember. I've not even tried to memorize it. But I can't remember which levels are where. I do remember that per is number 1. It's the lowest level. And I can't remember if number 8, the top level, is right fine or mighty fine. I would think mighty fine would be the top because right fine is not as good as mighty fine. And this isn't just any Hick. You know, you've got Hicks in New Hampshire. You've got Hicks in Washington, but these are Southern Hick. I can't think of the word I want. Not denominations, although that would work in the original sense of the word. These are Southern Hick terms, I guess, is as good a word as there is. I have got a working vocabulary that I am not exaggerating, I'm not a bragging, but it would shame a lot of college graduates I've known, and I'm barely graduated from high school. But sometimes the machinery up here freeze, the gears are stuck, and it won't bring out the word I want. I don't know how large my vocabulary is. I would say at least 100 words. I don't know even what they say the average vocabulary is, but I'm sure I have a few thousand words floating around in my head, and sometimes the little mental robot that goes through the filing system gets stuck on a nail or something. So, I do have a rating system. Now, if I didn't do reviews both here on the channel and on Distiller, though I've decided to just kind of lay off a Distiller while I'm doing this because it takes me longer to evaluate a whiskey, write down my notes as I go, and then write up the review. It takes me, egad, an hour or two probably. I've not timed it. Longer to do that than it does to do a video here, and I am trying, as I say, to rebuild that Whisky Basics playlist, and I don't want to be all year about it. Although here at the last of October, all year is not much left. There's just a few days of this month, then you got November, then you got December, and bam, we're going to be in 2026. It'll be more or less 6 years since these rumors started coming out of China, and people went into a panic over what I could have told them was not going to be much, if any, worse than the flu, and it wasn't. It isn't. In fact, the only way they could pump the Kung flu numbers up so high was to take almost every flu case and stick it in that other category. It's not that the flu disappeared in 2020 because, you know, normally the flu would be here, but it was down here and the Kung flu was up here where the flu would normally be. That is mighty suspicious. It's not that the flu went away. And I was still on Facebook back then, and Dr. Jonathan Sarfati, who is not a dunce, said that the reason the flu numbers were so far down was everybody was wearing a face diaper. And a lady named Kathy Peterson, who lives here in Albuquerque, but although she's a Mississippi girl, I'm a Texas boy, she and I both tried to let him know if they really did that, then they would do the same thing for all other respiratory diseases. The man is a scientist. He has a doctorate. But he swallowed at least some of the propaganda. And I don't remember how I got onto that. But anyways, this is actually going to be, well, it's not going to be as short as I thought. I'm at 18 minutes and counting. But I do have a whiskey rating scale. If I remember, I think I'll go ahead and put it, copy and paste it into the description. I'll use that photo of the scale that I took as the thumbnail. And if you didn't note it at the beginning, you can always go back to the start of the video and stop it right there and see what it is. Do you need to have a scale? Not if you're not really writing reviews, you know. You can just, you know, tell your friends, tell people online, you know, I like this whiskey because, I hate this whiskey because. That's all you need. I developed my rating scale because it fits how I think, and other scales don't. Oh, and I want to mention one more thing. My scale, as I say, has 8 levels, from pure to mighty fine. And I sat down. I realized I needed to do this after the fact, and did some math. And each level equates to a certain number of stars. It equates to so much out of 10, so much out of 100. Because those are the main other scales I've seen people use, either 5 stars, a 5-star scale, or a how much out of 100, a how much out of 10. But having added that in, excuse me, I set that to the side. And I don't believe I've used this toast in a little while, so cheers.